And election madness doesn't even begin to capture what we saw last night. Hey, Margot.
It was insanity in a good way. And he's in Raleigh and Charlotte today.
Oh, I know. And we're going to get to a lot of that. And incredibly, Josh Stein was with him, but I thought that was awesome. Awesome for us. I mean, what the Democrats are doing to the the Biden is doing to the North Carolina Democrats is I'm a big fan.
Oh, starting with the electric slide at the Raleigh airport, all the way to having him in Charlotte with Anderson Clayton, Josh Stein, and Roy Cooper.
Does it get any better than this?
No, it doesn't get better than this.
Like the heading?
Oh, I love the heading. That is awesome.
But well, we're going to dive into the debate. I mean, there were so many things that Biden said. I mean, he kept stopping. First of all, people felt sorry for him. I don't. I feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for this country and my kids. I don't feel sorry for Biden.
Listen, I have no mercy for that man, because I'll tell you why. Because I took care of people in nursing homes during COVID when they couldn't get out and buy their own things. And I watched my neighbors not be able to go to see their parents' funerals, all their family members. And I was around when people had weddings scheduled, lost their deposits, and couldn't go, have a regular wedding. What this man and Roy Cooper did to this country, I have no forgiveness or mercy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it cuts both ways. I think a lot of the Democrats don't have sympathy for the stuff that they've caused. They're too busy talking about January 6th. And I think Trump did a great job of disposing of that bull crap last night. I mean, here was Trump jacked up probably on hot dogs and 5 Diet Cokes. Biden, God only knows what cocktail of drugs he was on. And it wasn't even close to a fair fight. Let's take a look at this clip.
There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed 3, under his administration, killed a person in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support.
Very Parkinsonian.
Well,
For Biden. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. I guess he was talking about Baghdadi and some of the other terrorists we've killed, but that wasn't here.
Well, and let's not forget what he didn't mention, because that was the perfect time for Trump to say, are you going to check your watch now? Because there were 13 people that didn't make it home from Afghanistan because of you.
And $150 billion worth of equipment left behind. By the way, that was never brought up or addressed, and God knows where that is. I've heard unverified reports that equipment has ended up, in the hands of Hamas and Hezbollah attacking.
In China.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we left Afghanistan was a national disgrace that will never go. It's worse than the fall of Saigon.
It's tragic, as a member of a military family, to watch those families not be really acknowledged the way they should from the president of the United States, to having him throw out one of the members, the family members, the father of one of those that was killed, who also lost another son because he committed suicide for losing his brother. And they were stepbrothers, but stepsons, but who cares? That was their dad. He was in pain. It's just horrible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this is one of the things that Biden did. I mean, he's probably receiving orders in his earpiece from Langley. So it probably isn't him. But he claimed that he was the only president in this century that doesn't have any change it to this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world.
Well, we know that's absolutely false. We don't even need a fact check. We all watched it take place. So that's just, it's just really a travesty. More for the fact that he's in that much of a decline that he would make such arrogant statements with such vigor, to stand there on the stage and make such arrogant demented statements on that stage, which we all know are untruthful, with a voice that sounds very much like they put that cannula up his nose and ran it on full oxygen, because he was raspy and very weak. And just really, it was a sad day for America. I hate to say that, that's the president. We shouldn't have to feel this way, but that's exactly how I feel.
To be clear, it could have been Langley in his earpiece saying those lies. I think it's your
Flapper, since he's such a good liar.
Fake, Flapper, and Dana Gash. Aren't they great?
Well, to their credit, they cut them off just in time last night, and they gave very liberal questions. I mean, who cares? I know they wanted to make Joe Biden look good about climate change.
Oh,
which
yeah,
was
they definitely
a joke.
Yeah, and I thought Trump did great. I mean, how do you sit there honestly and not laugh, not get pissed off? I thought Trump really had one of the best performances ever last night, given the circumstances of what we all saw.
I think it was probably one of the most human, natural performances. And I say performances because that's what debates are. He really was empathetic. The thing that I found, the little things, nuanced things I saw, were he called him Joe as if they're friends. And they're just not, they're having an argument.
He called him Brandon also.
I heard that. I did hear that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And see, guys, see if your ear picks this up the next time you're listening to things. I'm finding that everyone across the board refers to Trump as President Trump, and they can't help themselves. So if you go to MSNBC, God help you, but if you go to there or CNN, when they're talking about this debate, they just say it. And I think it'll have a lot of carryover when people go to the polls in November.
I think they pick their times to say it. Sometimes they say former president, sometimes they say Mr. But in this instance, the decorum required it, because this was a historic event. 2 incumbent presidents going against each other.
First in 100 years. I mean, we don't have to guess how they're going to do. They both have records they're running on. I don't know what Biden thinks what he's done to the economy is reminiscent of the Weimar Republic, the way that it seems purposely tanked the economy. Trump said that. He said, look, I set everything up. Everything was going fairly well until 14 months into your tenure. And then you, after your willful negligence or intervention also, you screwed things up. So I thought he did a great job bringing that out.
Well, but Biden accidentally admitted that he started his term with zero inflation. I mean, that was a great catch by Trump.
Yeah. And I don't think Langley had commented in his ear for a while. So I think maybe he filled in the blank there. So this is my favorite part. We were both live tweeting last night, and you had a lot of singer. It was great. I mean, yeah, it's something you do with your friends. About 20 minutes in, my husband looked over and he goes, "Are you watching that? I mean, this is sad and pathetic." I'm like, dude, I'm live tweeting. I can't sit there and participate in watching this guy who looks like a confused, nursing home patient.
I actually wasn't. I never watched one instance of it. I replayed it this morning. But as I was tweeting, I was actually listening, because I was listening for enunciation, little nuances, things like that. And then I went back and watched it this morning, and it was kind of interesting when you see the earpiece in the ear where he touches it. But did you notice that he bit his pen? I'm like, and right about the time he bit his pen, he started to pick up the pace, which obviously he took the medicine that he meant to take earlier then, because it kicked in at the end when he told everybody in the Atlanta Hyatt that he was in Raleigh.
Another hit of Ritalin. Works every time. Let me play this. This is my favorite part.
Because of location, because we have an ocean in between, you got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President.
Oh, look. Well, first of all, I want to say from the outset, everyone in the audience, there is no such thing as a Palestinian or Palestine. Palestine has never had a capital or currency. It's never existed. It's like saying Apex, North Carolina. All of a sudden, one day you have a bunch of protesters and they say, okay, Apex is annexed from the rest of North Carolina and we're just going to take North Carolina. No, it's never been that way. It's refugees from Syria, Egypt, Saudis that no one has wanted. Okay, they're all in a holding, and nobody's wanted and no one has cared about. They still don't, we know, because even now they can't flee Gaza to go there. No one's ever cared about these Gazans is who they are. No one's ever cared about them except for Israel. So, and Trump knows that, but he's using the Palestinian thing to great depth here. I thought it was funny as hell. So I'm going to call Biden a bad Palestinian.
I think that's what we should call him.
Yeah.
I think those Palestinian protesters who don't want to have him on their side, they don't like him either. Now they're stuck with him.
Yeah, I mean, bad Palestinian. And look at how Biden was greeted today. This is courtesy of Charlotte Observer. This is where I got this picture from. Here's how he was greeted. The bad Palestinian. So they agree.
That's hilarious.
They don't like it. And I think this is great because in North Carolina, Biden received a 16% undervote during the primary. And what that means is people got off their ass. They went to go vote in the primary and they voted no preference. Pull the Democrat ballot, no preference. They checked that box. And that is to indicate their dissatisfaction. It was coordinated with Trump's Israel policy. Israel wants to live. People in Israel want to live. And the 16% Democrats in North Carolina want Jews to die, all of them. And for Hamas to take over the birthplace of Jesus Christ.
You know, when you talk about the North Carolina voting process and Biden, you know, recently we saw that RFK Jr. and Cornel West were like held at bay. And now what will be interesting is if the North Carolina State Board of Elections decides to rethink that, if they decide Biden says he's still going to run, he doesn't want to go off the ballot, but let's just say they 25th Amendment him or something happens. Now they're going to have to eat some crow.
Yeah, right. I mean, if 25th Amendment would ever apply, it would be there. Yeah, I find that interesting that, and if you've not been paying attention, or maybe you have or haven't, the North Carolina State Board of Election yesterday voted, or 2 days ago, rather,
2 days ago,
voted that Cornel West, RFK Jr., the Constitution Party, the Green Party as well.
I didn't hear the Green Party in that particular ruling.
So they're off the ballot. Now,
they're not off the ballot. What they said is, we're going to verify these signatures. Even though they had over the number of signatures, they said, we're going to pause.
Yeah.
They're not off the ballot yet, but we know that's what their end goal is.
And it was a party line vote. So on the Board of Elections, there's 5 members, right? And 3 are Democrat, 2 are Republican. And the 3 Democrats said, no, look, Cornel West would take that undervote. The guy is an anti-Semite. He hates Israel. He's a lock. He may even get 20% of the vote, which would be awful.
It would be awful from the perspective of the statement it makes, but that would actually be wonderful for the Republicans. And honestly, Scott Pressler's actually advocated for Cornel West to be on the ballot and RFK Jr. because any vote for them is a vote against Biden, which is a statement, but it's also a plus for the Republican Party. Yeah.
I mean, and then the Constitution Party. So, they were going to run a few candidates. And while we don't know if they would win, a lot of some Republicans are looking not for Trump, but down ballot. They're looking for other options, maybe for their state rep, given some of the things we're going to talk about as we go on. As you know, or may or may not know, yesterday was the last day of session. The General Assembly is going to adjourn until July 10th. And they may or may not do a few things that we'll get into. And people, maybe they want a different choice. And speaking of that, what do you think about the notion that Joe did such a bad job, he could be replaced on the ballot.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'll tell you why I don't think that's going to happen. First of all, but I will give you my theory. There's a very polarizing person that would be looked at in this race, Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer. The interesting thing is everybody knows that California's economy has collapsed, and everybody knows that Gretchen Whitmer is a liar. But what they don't know is there's a guy named Roy Cooper in the 9th largest state to get to the White House electoral wise, with the 11th largest economy, who's flown under the radar, but has been very good allies with Biden, who he said so today in his speech in Raleigh, who may very well either do one of two things. He could pick it up and take it forward because he is perceived to have played well with the Republicans and kept the government running in North Carolina, which we know is a lie. But also, he's been talked about in circles to take the place of Biden, and if not, to be part of his cabinet in the future. How's that for scary?
That is scary, but I don't think that will happen because if Kamala
she's never
isn't the next one, let me tell you something. You put in a white man instead of a black woman to be the top of the ticket and replace Biden, you're going to have the fighting of which you have never seen in the Democrat Party. It would be a catastrophic event. Splintering the party. It would obliterate the party. And he would probably, to landslide doesn't even capture what would happen. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Kamala wants the job.
She spoke after the debate last night, and she talked about the slow moving car, which is hilarious. And honestly, I don't think the Democratic Party wants her. I think what we are not seeing out loud is what is happening behind the scenes. There's a scramble happening right now, and it's a power play. There's Newsom with all that money. There's how can we get the money away from Joe because there's a big pack for him or many big packs for him. There's Kamala over there trying to get her people together. It is the division that you're talking about is already taking place. We're just not privy to it right in the front of our faces.
Yeah, that's true. I don't see him going anywhere off the ballot. I'm not an expert, but I think that would be a difficult thing to move in that direction, right?
I don't think Jill will let him get off the ballot. She likes handling the sack of potatoes around.
She was a little bit too cozy with that, was she not?
It was interesting because there's Trump. He walks off the stage by himself, goes back and sees his fan club, which we all know, Matt Gaetz and all those guys. But Jill has to literally carry Biden off. But before she does, she has to do her own cheer.
Oh, she did it today. She did it today in Raleigh, and she's just, I think she's been, for how many years has she been doing this? She's been with him forever. Politics is in her blood. It's very difficult to get off of that. So I'm sure that, staring down the barrel of getting out of politics after being with him for all these years is difficult. And I'm sure, she's acting out of her self-interest, but we all know that it's not in Joe's self-interest because
correct. Or the nation's, which truly should be the first priority. Put your selfishness aside and think about the country, which, we could get infuriated again, just talking about all the things he said about what he denied happening with illegal immigrants, talking about, when crime happens, it could have easily been a citizen of the U.S. who was raped and had incest with their family members. Was that like a Freudian slip?
Raping daughters or
It's just very sad. It was very sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it pisses me off.
Me too.
Democrats are totally fine doing that. And then what they did here in North Carolina, they went down and had a really big shindig to wait for Air Force One to come in. So I'm going to show you that Anderson Clayton is the Democrat chair. If you just woken up, I'll just tell you, she is the Democrat chair. I don't know, and she's in her 20s, brutally obnoxious. Not someone who has taken the position and run with it. Her stated objective is to reach rural voters. In fact, before I put this up, let's look at what was just reported this week, that Democrats are making a push. You'll see Clayton is right there on the left, and you'll see Wesley Harris, who's running for treasurer. He's got some cachet. She doesn't. You'll see barbecue. Where are we seeing this? Barbecue in Gates County. So we see from Josh Stein where he's going. We see where Anderson Clayton is going. We see from repeated statements, they want rural North Carolina. Now, what do we know about rural North Carolina that unites all of them?
First of all, I believe you quoted this to me one time. We're one of the only states that rural North Carolina can help pull the state and carry it. One of two or three, I believe.
Second to Texas.
First of all, they're conservatives. Rural North Carolinians are conservatives. Yeah. And we know that with what people say often, that North Carolina's eastern area and western North Carolina are the bookends that carry the vote for the middle area.
Yeah. Well, look, Democrats have made headway in the last 10 years in the suburbs. But what they did is they spent so much time getting out the vote in those areas. They've neglected the rural parts of the state, which have turned red. In fact, the red areas have gotten much redder.
Yes, they have.
And then the blue areas are not getting redder or not getting bluer, which is great. North Carolina is unique in that way. So let's look at Anderson in her own words. Here is her last night. I think this is at midnight or this morning, getting ready to meet Air Force One.
Oh, I can't wait. Is she doing the electric?
No sleep. Bus. Club. Another club. Another club. Plane. Next place. No sleep. No sleep.
So she's not sleeping.
Join the club. Have a baby.
Why not?
I mean,
okay. So here is the crowd that's now waiting for Air Force One. So picture this. They've just seen the excrement show that is Joe Biden. And I want you to listen to this song. So I'm going to show you the lyrics in a second, but here you go. Okay. Now, full disclosure, I love rap. Listen to it all the time. I know the lyrics. In fact, I know the lyrics to that. I know who Fat Joe is. That's me. But I'm not hosting a party meeting Air Force One of constituents and trying to attract rural voters. So, Nuck if you buck, I'm going to put the lyrics of this song up. Now, remember, two things that the Democrats want you to believe about their party. They want gun control. They don't like guns in the hands of people that shouldn't get them. I don't think anybody does, but they really want you to think that we want guns everywhere. And they do not like the degradation and the belittling of women. So remember that. Take a look at these lyrics. Okay. So, I'm a gun-toting pistol holder, throwing out those, wanting to kill N-words and hoes.
Oh, wow.
And it says, so if an N-word comes running his mouth, stomp his ass, gun-toting, etc., blah, blah, blah.
The biggest hypocrites about racism in this country are Democrats.
You're sitting there. Look, I know Fat Joe's coming in, etc., and I get it. Look, I love Lil Wayne. Would not play him, okay, going to meet Air Force One, where you've got 300 people. They only had 300 people. We have generally, the problem with us is we've got 30,000 people waiting for Air Force One. That's the difference. But he plays what? Gloria, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he plays
YMCA,
right? Again, getting guns and shooting N-words and hoes.
The contrast is stark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something that that you would find Republicans doing. And so this is hypocrisy, and we're going to be pointing that out. Now, you pointed out, yes, it's absolutely ridiculous. So this is what we're looking at now is Josh Stein. Was he addressing the crowd here at this rally today? Is this what I'm looking at?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let's hear it.
To be here with Governor Roy Cooper, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, and President Joe Biden. What a great day.
Wow.
Well,
alrighty then.
I think that's the sound clip that the NCGOP needs to use, because he's not afraid to associate himself with those folks. And those are radicals. They're all radicals. Therefore, illegal immigrants in North Carolina killing Americans. Therefore, inflation going up and taking, the poorest of the poor, which includes, different color people. Like, the fact he is willing to associate.
Mostly white in North Carolina.
I'm sorry?
Mostly white in North Carolina. That's what the statistics show. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Poor is poor.
Mm-hmm.
And to see him hang out with the elitists, because that's exactly what he is, an elitist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He is. I mean, he looks very awkward when he's out in the rural territory, but going out there and just introducing Biden after he was basically comatose and lying, I think speaks volumes. I'm sure that the Robinson campaign is going to take that and run with it.
Oh, they already have. They've run with it. Immediately, 58 minutes, I believe, after that went up, Mark Robinson got on Twitter X and made his first post about it. I think the other thing that's interesting is Josh Stein has tried to keep himself distanced from Joe Biden. So you don't see pictures of them together. You'll hear that, but do you see pictures? Not many, if any.
No. Yeah.
Roy Cooper does now. He doesn't mind hugging up to his daddy.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he doesn't care. But it's going to be interesting. I tell you what, I don't know many Democrats that would want to go out there and campaign with this guy, but apparently we met one, and his name is Josh Stein. But again, he's the agrarian populist. It's just a barbecue eating North Carolina loving man.
I think what he said is we love ACC basketball and barbecue. Personally, my favorite things are that we're the 9th way to get to the White House and we have the 11th largest economy. But he doesn't want to focus on those things.
No, of course not. He wouldn't know how to alter the economy if it killed him. So we had 2 very important cases come down from SCOTUS. Yes, I'm going to put the first one up. This one, okay, which says that a lot of and actually I think it would apply to Trump as well. So a lot of okay, and you know more about this probably than I do, but we knew this. We knew this was a sham, a cruel sham, that some of these January 6th defendants are sitting in prison or facing prison for something called obstruction of justice. What do you know about this case?
Well, so this is a charge that really was used in the Enron days. For those of you that don't remember, Enron lied about utility, lied about how much they were worth, and ended up literally stealing people's retirements. The charge was used in that for things like shredding documents. Excuse me. And they stretched this.
Arthur Anderson. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and that's what literally led to Sarbanes-Oxley. So they stretched this charge, defined it differently, and tried to use it for Trump in his indictments in D.C. and also for J6ers.
Georgia too, I think. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Georgia as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, what the sad part about this is there's a lot of J6ers that really just didn't have the time, the money, or the inclination to fight the DOJ because they have a 99% prosecution rate. So they took a plea.
They pled, yeah.
So there's no appeal there. There's no appeal there. They have to stand by what they did. So those that didn't, or who are still awaiting, are the ones who will benefit the most from this. And Trump being one of them, because they actually held out on his trial waiting for this in DC. So about half the charges for Trump are going to be dropped in DC, which makes it really hard for Jack Smith, who, by the way, in Florida is being skewered on the fact that he has a limitless budget, and he's not really an appointed by the Senate prosecutor. And so the Judge Cannon is very interested in how do you really fit in? Well, that's where the next case that we're going to talk about, the Chevron doctrine, fits in.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So, whoops, this is the one on the, by the way, the one on the ballot issue that we were talking about before. That's not going to court, by the way. That's not at all going to court. Let me get this up here. Hold on. I think I've got it. Guys, we have a lot of media. Today is very media heavy. And again, I'm just getting used to all this, this software stuff we have.
Oh, and both of us bought new computers just to be able to do this. So we both are manipulating and maneuvering around, finally figured out how to do some of the technical things. And it's just a little difficult because Sloan drives.
Well, I mean, look, we didn't just buy computers. We got matching computers, my friends. Matching computers. Okay. So this trial, yes, here we go. All right. So this is a constitutional lawyer, had been waiting for this, loves this, and says the Chevron decision from today is an administrative agencies don't get to decide their own powers. I'm going to describe to you how this works in a second. Here is Leader Mike Johnson's comment. The agencies have been empowered by these court proceedings effectively, act like little tyrants. We don't know who's making all these rules. Of course, he could change some of this, but he hasn't. And those rules all the time. So, I mean, when federal agencies interpret the laws instead of the courts, we get mandates, we get inappropriate things, we get
policies.
Well, we get stuff like, and we get stuff like Title IX. So here's what happens. I mean, I'm just going to apply this to the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, and other agencies. They don't take a statute and say, oh, how do we come up with a policy? They come up with a policy that they want. A lot of times their bosses want, and they'll pick and choose parts of the law that they want to fit that policy. A lot of the times these laws are erroneous, like having boys and girls sports in the bathrooms. And
well, there's another area of it which really brought this forward. And the reason why I bring it up is because Dan Bishop and Brad Knott were on a space with me on X one night, and they brought this to light. And I think it's important. So really what this is about is the EPA. In one instance, they went to West Virginia and Ohio, and they said, you know, our policy is that you do the following things. And the court said, no, you can't do that. So they took that upon themselves, capitalized on it from the perspective of the law, and went to court again and said, how do agencies create policies that can penalize citizens when there's no law attached to it? As you alluded to, penalties for not allowing boys to use girls' bathrooms, penalties regarding EPA policies that, you know, we can take your land or we can manipulate how your land can be used based on a policy, not a law.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is great news. Great news.
I mean, it can be. There's poison in every pill. I mean, every decision. I mean, it is important because it frees Congress to go in and say, okay, so there's a lot of ambiguity in the Title IX law, apparently, but it turns on how you define sex, right? So right now, the agency is allowed to interpret what sex means. They're hinging upon a case called Bostock, where some of that case applies, but not really. But the main thing is that they're saying, okay, we're going to define sex as whatever you feel like that day or whatever. And they're allowed to do that. Now Congress is going to have the freedom to go back and say two things. Number one, no agency is allowed to interpret that. And two, here's the law. Now, the problem is, as you know, and we've learned, is that we don't always have the best judges. We have, 900 judges across the country. They're not all, some of them are corrupt, flat out. Number one. Number two, we've got a very slow legislative body who would be sometimes reluctant to take that two-step process. They have the freedom to, as activists, we know we have to push them to. I think there's a lot of areas for this. DHHS.
Sloan, are you saying that the legislators are lazy? Legislators are lazy and they don't want to do their job creating laws. Is that what you're saying?
I say they create too many laws, too many BS laws, but what we don't need are agencies creating law at a record rate and Congress doing it.
Well, let me tell you where the good news is in this. It's in Trump's case in Florida, because Jack Smith is not appointed by Congress. He has not been selected and approved by the Senate. Because of the way he was selected, part of this Chevron policy affects his case.
Hmm.
He
Okay,
doesn't. So
so-
currently, he has infinite resources, but he
So-
has no appointment.
Right. And so the agency who is allowing him to do this, they must have a policy that allows these type of appointments. So the agency having that.
No, there was at one time special appointment authority, but that has expired, and he must go before the Senate to be appointed. And because he has not, Chevron applies.
Okay. All right. So it's going to restrict that agency from making a policy that would allow this guy to do that. And that's how we get nameless, faceless bureaucrats
Exactly.
bearing down on us with the worst tyranny ever. So again, we always talk about your judges being very important, right? Chevron decision proves it. We don't want a bunch of liberal leftist judges that are like Merchan, for instance, that are going to interpret this in a way that would actually weaponize an agency. That can't happen.
Well, what we don't want is a fourth branch of government known as the bureaucrats running the government, which Chevron has just decimated.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a federal level law. So North Carolina has another system. They don't use this. They use a system by which they will allow challenges to administrative law. I mean, this is it. Chevron doctrine is the cornerstone of administrative law. Okay. Administrative mean if you wanted to sue the DPI here, the Department of Public Instruction in North Carolina, right? This would not apply. We've got a better system here that uses common sense. And I think that that's what the U.S. is going to adopt after this decision today.
I think we're going to go back to what the Constitution says. You have three branches of government. Fit your needs in those branches. Otherwise, it's unconstitutional.
Right. Separation of power, we get that, but allowing, allowing so-called experts within the DHHS, FDA, and others to have the lion's share of the rulemaking process is not what the framers intended.
Exactly.
So, yeah, this is a very, very good thing. One other thing I wanted to put up here is we talked about, the General Assembly had a short session. It's going to come back again in July. We're critics. That's what we do. Right?
Absolutely.
There's a short session. The funding to fund the remainder of the opportunity scholarships, that did not happen. The House and Senate is both agreeing on doing that. It hasn't materialized yet.
Well, I think it's weird to me how supposedly Tim Moore and Phil Berger, the Speaker of the House and the President pro tem of the Senate in North Carolina, cannot align on communication to make this occur. What's even weirder to me is the representation, the constituents, the people that represent the constituents are not raising hell about this. These are kids and they're not in rural areas. This is really impacting suburban and urban areas, not so much rural areas. So you would think that those representatives would be going, hey, now we got kids that are going to go to school in 2 months that have no idea where they're going because you guys can't figure out, how to dole the money out.
Well, schools don't know how many teachers to hire. I mean, it's a real cluster. And I'll tell you what, it's going to impact the election, because the Democrats have a BS narrative out there, but it is effective. And that's they're stealing money from schools. Now, the answer to that, and the truth is, obviously, when you've got, a high percentage of failing schools, what are families to do? The problem is there's no relief. And it's going to be pretty hard to run on, hey, that's BS, when there's a benefit or a program that hasn't been realized. But you know what they did make damn sure that they did? They made sure, this is Alan Chesser, one of my favorites. This is a Republican that it's an alleged Republican pounding his chest about funding childcare. So this is a benefit for nursery schools that was created during COVID by the feds. They came in and said, we're going to fund nursery schools.
Well,
Now,
socialize. They're just socializing childcare.
absolutely socialism. And now that the feds have pulled out, we're supposed to fund that. So he's out here bragging about that. Margot, 8 lunatics got arrested 2 days ago at the General Assembly, protesting and raising hell. I think it's called an insurrection. About
It's only happened at the Capitol on January 6th. Sorry, Sloan. I'm just kidding.
well, they mounted an insurrection over childcare funding. Now, A, I don't want those people near children. B, Helen Chesser, why'd you reward that?
Well, and I think there's a C to this. Nobody paid my damn child care as a single mom.
Nope.
And I wouldn't say that back in those days, because my daughter's a little older, that I made a lot of money. I worked my way up to make a lot of money. Not a lot. Let's be relative here. But to say to, working class Americans who have worked hard for what they have and don't get this benefit, that is really a sad statement. And that a Republican would be the one to do it.
Right. It's socialism. This isn't the first time from this particular rep and others, but he's pounding his chest over that when universal school choice is what a lot of people, really actually need. To your point, they're waiting. We have businesses waiting to see if they're going to be able to hire teachers. We have parents waiting. And then this is what they come up with. Healthcare is not a right. Early childcare is not a right. When you're taking that much money, 135 million, I think it says, from us to give to somebody else, that's not a right. That is income redistribution.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to say this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Why can't North Carolina look at their neighbors in Georgia and allocate the lottery money like Georgia does? And North Carolina is supposed to, but they lie all the time about this, because that's how they fund preschool. Everybody gets to get in a lottery for preschool in Georgia. Your child at 4, I don't know what just happened. Are you there?
Yes.
I think something's going on here. Let me see what I'm doing. I think I figured it out. Somebody's calling me and it flipped the screen. So I apologize. But here's the thing. In Georgia, every preschool has the right to be certified and put into a lottery system. They are paired with children that are 4 years old. 4-year-olds can go to preschool for free for half a day. So that means if you're a working mom like me, this is exactly what happened because I did it. Half of the day is paid for by the state. What a relief. But it's really paid for by the lottery. So my mom would run down to the border in Georgia, grab a lottery ticket because that paid for her granddaughter to go to 4-year-old preschool. Why is it so complicated that we just take it out of the general funds instead of working on a solution that could benefit all of us? Not saying that lottery is great.
Alan Chesser would say that casinos, if we would only allow casinos, that would bring in the tax revenue to fund this and all kinds of other things. So that's what they're saying. Right? They're not going to be happy, some of the Republican leadership, until they get casinos, recreational pot, this whole CBD bill. They want our dispensaries, but they want our recreational pot dispensaries. They're fighting over the license for that. And they want to say, if we only had that, we'd have zero income tax. Well, what difference does it make when you actually have a not the way of life that we all know? Now, we know that the Republican leadership and their cronies, they look down on people like you and me who are social conservatives. But I got to tell you, most of the state of North Carolina, they're social conservatives. Whichever way they vote, they don't want it.
Well, if that's the case, and that's really what they want to do,
Yes.
move right on over to Tennessee. We'll just move one state over from Georgia, and let's talk about that. Because what do they have? The same thing. It's called the Hope Scholarship. Kids at the 4-year-olds, same thing. High schoolers with a B average or above get to go to college free. But you know what they also have? No income tax.
Well, do they have legal casinos and pots?
Well,
Pot.
they did have pot, and they didn't like the way it was being done. They thought it was not being handled well, so they're pulling back on that. As far as the casino thing, I would say this. When the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians buys a Buc-ee's over in Gatlinburg, you can bet your rear end there's going to be a casino there soon.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. All right. Well, listen, it's been fun. It's Friday night. Let's go have fun.
Yeah, it's Friday night. I think we're finally getting our rhythm. I'm so thankful that we both got new equipment because we're taking this seriously. And I think that the background, the technology is really working to our advantage. I think we've really come into our stride. And I look forward to Tuesday. We'll have a lot more to talk about.
Tuesday's going to be great. We're going to talk about getting out the black vote. Of course, why would we be experts? We're not the subject matter experts. We're going to talk to Pastor Darrell Scott, who has been with Trump now for years, going on 10 years, a decade, well before he was threw his hat in the ring for president. He's a black pastor out of Cleveland, and he has his own show, Pastor Darrell Scott. He's going to join us and talk about what he thinks is essential in terms of really meeting the needs. This is meeting the real needs of Black people, in particular Black males, who are looking for solutions to real problems as they build their families, as they go on to, work, etc. They're building families, all of this, they're getting left behind from Biden's policies, and they're getting made empty promises. And he's going to talk more about that with us.
You know, I'm super excited about that. I want to leave, if you're going to come and join us, which I hope you do on Tuesday, and you know Black conservatives in North Carolina, I highly encourage you to introduce them to the Frederick Douglass Society in North Carolina. That is the largest voice for Black conservatives who has a seat at the NCGOP table. So if you're unaware of that, please introduce them. You can reach out to me or on the podcast, and we'll get you hooked up, because there is a place for you. And we do want you to be a part of the movement. And we want to show you how to become a part with a voice.
That's right. We all have a shared destiny. And listen, I remember when I became a Republican, Jewish, raised in a highly Democrat home. And it's one of those things where sometimes you're like, oh, wow, my whole friend set, etc. Look, people are going to accept you. Don't worry about it. But the important thing is you do have places to go, like Frederick Douglass Society. There are others where, sometimes it's nice to be in a room full of others who have come over to this side, who have the same cultural background as you. And we have that here in the Republican Party. We want you to know about it.
Absolutely. And we want you to join us because you are a part of us.
Absolutely. No doubt. All
right.
right.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right. We'll see you Tuesday. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great weekend.